Alright everyone, it's the day after Rangers 2, Celtic 2 at Ibrox, and we are going to discuss all of the fallout from the match, including the fallout that some of you wonderful people seem to have had with me and Stevie. Of course, I am overplaying that ever so slightly, a little bit like Joe Hart yesterday. There was no actual falling out, of course, just a wee bit of healthy debate, disagreement with me and Steve. We won't shirk away from that at all. We will get into it, but before then, let's take a look at the league table, and Celtic are still 9 points clear at the top. We have now dropped 5 points from a possible 60, and obviously, given the nature of yesterday's result, it's very much as it was at the top, but with just a game closer to the finishing line. But it's far too early to really be talking about the finishing line. We had the live reaction with me and Stevie after the game yesterday. Feel free to give that a watch. Plenty of comments from you lot to get through, so we'll dive into them. As always, I've picked out the most thought-provoking. So yeah, let's start that now. We're starting with Pucci the First, saying, penalty every day of the week, except if you're Celtic and it's any day of the week. Yes, pretty baffling that we didn't get that penalty yesterday. We will all have seen the still images, aka photographs, going around of Connor Goldson with his hands up like that, almost playing basketball, the ball catching them. I'm always like a little bit reluctant to just look at still images, and for things like tackles and even handballs, I always think it's better to actually watch moving images, aka video. But you know, having seen the video both at the time and even more so since then, I find it really, really, well, not surprising, but really, really, what's the word? Baffling, remarkable that we weren't given a penalty for that, or at the very least, the VAR, which I think was Willie Collum, didn't ask the referee, John Beaton, to go over to the monitor and have a look. It was a penalty for me, a really obvious penalty. You could perhaps, you know, if we went back a year, you could have maybe looked at it and had questions about it, but when you see what is a penalty nowadays for handball, even more so since VAR has come into Scottish football, just look at Matt O'Reilly against Ross County at Celtic Park, or the more obvious one, Bernabe, that one or whatever it was, behind his head against Dundee United. Both of those given, and the one yesterday isn't. You are left scratching your head a little bit. Mike O'Keefe talking about Alistair Johnston, saying Johnston fits in really well, gets forward and tough as nails. And we've got Ian Milne as well saying, for my money, Alistair Johnston was man of the match. He fitted in like a glove. Looked like it was his 100th game for Celtic, not his first. Absolutely brilliant. I thought he was magic. I actually half-jokingly tweeted that it was the best Ibrox debut since Zheng Ji all of those years ago. He was excellent. I mean, kind of has everything in his game, you know, much bigger than I think people expected. Quite an imposing figure almost, but really quick, puts a shift in, doesn't shirk a tackle at all, which I think was vital in, you know, his debut yesterday. Maybe a lot of players coming into their debut in a match like that wouldn't want to be, you know, one of the most talked about players. You'd almost just be kind of wanting to ease yourself into the game and, you know, maybe put in a 6 out of 10, 7 max, whereas he was firing into challenges. He was, you know, getting in the face of Rangers players, and I thought he was potentially our best player on the day. Between him, Maida and McGregor probably, but you could argue Johnston maybe was the most consistent throughout the match. But he was excellent, I think. There was actually a wee kind of interesting story. He did the post match interview on Celtic TV, and he actually went in on a wee story and told us that he hadn't informed his parents that he was going to start the match. They had to find out like the rest of us, and much earlier in the morning than the rest of us. Johnson said, I knew my family have been going a little too crazy if I let them know that I was starting, so I wanted them to wake up at 7 a.m. over there to check their phones and see me in the starting lineup, and let them enjoy that moment and let me focus on the match. Really excited to see him going forward in more ways than one, obviously, into future matches, but also playing forward a bit more. The nature of yesterday's game meant that we didn't see too much of that, especially in the second half, but I think with the games coming up, he'll have a real opportunity to hopefully get some assists, get some good crosses into the box, and I think he's a right back now. I know Ralston will have a bit to say about that. I think we'd expect a bit of movement on Juranovic this month, probably. So I think we're going to see a fair bit of Johnston coming up. The Trojan, why have I pronounced it like Jeremy Toljan? The Trojan, I should say, saying Mooy was good when he came on. You guys hardly ever give him a rap. Even when you do, it's between clenched teeth with caveats. I thought Mooy was good yesterday. Are you serious, man? Like, I would say, I mean, I could be wrong here, but I would say I've been like really on board with Aaron Mooy right from the start. We went and got a couple of interviews, 2 interviews before he signed, talking about, you know, what he could bring to Celtic. And even since he's played, when people were kind of having a go at him early on, I would say, me personally, and the other guys in the channel have been very pro Aaron Mooy. So I disagree with you, Trojan. I'm going to fight back a bit there. Don't know if you've been watching this channel or you're getting us mixed up with another channel. We've been very pro Aaron Mooy throughout, and he impacted the game yesterday. Let's move on. Gary Lineker. For me, it felt like Celtic won today. I stuck in my head at 2-1 down. Oh no, it's 6 points now. Waiting on that goal to draw. It was a win for me. Who wants Walker's crisps then? How grim was it, by the way? Second half, we're trailing 2-1, just watching that clock tick down and just knowing that if we lose the game, there's only going to be 6 points between us and Rangers, given how far ahead we have been this season. And all of the, you know, struggles and troubles that they've had, and like how up until, you know, effectively yesterday, discounting the St Mirren game, how good and almost perfect our league form has been. If we'd have been sitting here right now with only 6 points between us and our rivals, with them having you know, all of the momentum now and us having to be the ones who kind of had to react, it would have been pretty difficult. We'd have had to put up with a lot of stuff. So I guess that is a pretty good point, Gary, and it kind of highlights how important that Kyogo goal was. In fact, as Premier Grade puts it, the Kyogo goal was worth 3 points. It kind of was. And Colin Higgs pointing out, Kyogo gets equaliser, runs into the net to get the ball and sprints to centre the ball for the restart. Hunger, brilliant. I forgot to actually mention that yesterday. It kind of sums up Kyogo, sums up this team under Ange, that we scored such a big goal. You know, potentially at the end of the season, we're looking back at that goal as being one of, if not the biggest, most important goals of the season. And yet, he and his teammates wanted to try and find a winner. That's just what they've got in their mind. They want to win every single match. It was brilliant to see. Excellent. You would want that attitude completely. The only downside was we didn't get amazing celebrations in the corner as a result. I mean, I think if he'd have run over and been given it all this, or was, you know, as we think, started dancing there, it would have been, you know, proper scenes we'd look back on for years. We didn't really get it. Speaking to some people that were at the game as well, I think like a lot of people watching at home, there was a fear that the goal may be chalked off for Aaron Mooy being offside. And I think the celebrations were kind of muted a little bit at first, and then it kind of went daft like the rest of the Celtic support around the world when it became clear that Mooy had been onside. So in many ways it was a strange kind of goal and celebration, but it doesn't really matter at all. The facts are that it was a goal, and it was a goal that earned us a valuable point and keeps us 9 points clear. That's a point that Mind Incursion, I'm having a shocker today, Mind Excursion is making. The performance does not matter, but the result was enormous today. Ange is not going to like me saying this, but another trophy in the cabinet. I made that first point yesterday that, you know, all the other kind of noise and chatter and like to be honest, this video is pointless, because all that really matters in the grand scheme of things in terms of this season is that it was a draw and we're still 9 points clear. That's all that's going to matter at the end of the season. We're not going to remember the level of performance of either side. We're just going to remember the fact that it was a game that they probably will feel they had to win. Certainly to close the gap, they had to win it. We didn't, and the draw that we got was an acceptable result. In terms of your second point, and again, this is very ironic coming from me with all the stuff I've done on the channel, all the ill-advised purchases and comments I have made since we started doing this channel, 3 years ago. But yeah, let's just calm down a little bit with all the title winning chat. Nothing is won yet. Let's just keep winning matches, and if we do, we'll be in an increasingly positive position. We already are, but it'll just keep getting better and better. Just on that, this is our 6 upcoming fixtures in the league. 4 of them are at Celtic Park. A good opportunity to maintain or indeed extend our lead at the top. I mean, imagine if we take 18 points from 18 from those 6 matches, we'll be in a brilliant position. But, we take them one game at a time. We've navigated, Easter Road, Pittodrie and Ibrox now without losing any ground. It's really, really good league form, and we've got games now that we can feel good about ourselves going into, and I think a real opportunity. Starting with Kilmarnock on Saturday and St Mirren, 10 days after that, of getting 2 more wins. I think if we keep winning, I do genuinely believe there's more drop points to come across the city. I think they're going to improve. I think they'll get a bit of confidence from yesterday's game and the fact that they performed well. But I think you're still going to see more consistency from us. And of course, the next derby is at Celtic Park. And hopefully, if we can just keep winning, you can look at that next derby as being the real moment when we could clinch the league. Maybe not mathematically, but in effect. So yeah, exciting times ahead indeed. Just some comments from the Celtic camp, mainly Callum McGregor, because he spoke to the media after the game and gave what I thought was a pretty good assessment, certainly a better assessment than me, Stevie, or anyone else that I've read so far. He said, "We started really well and our solutions in the game were good. Our touch, passing, tempo, all the things we talk about. Then I think we just got carried away a little bit, stopped doing the things that were getting us success, and there was a little moment where they got a press up, and that changes the momentum of the game." I think he's talking about the Joe Hart moment there. "The crowd got involved and things started to spiral from there, but it's important when that happens to regain your composure and go again. We didn't quite do that, probably for the rest of the game. We wanted a result to come away with. Ideally, we wanted to win, but in football, it is important when you aren't playing well, you don't lose." Ange also obviously spoke to the press after the game. He said that it was, quote, "a cracking game of football." He also said they are human beings. They are not going to be perfect all the time. The beauty of it is within that context, they still found a way, because at 2-1, it would have been easy with the crowd the way it was and the way the game was going for us to resign ourselves to our fate. It is not our day, but this group of players never do that, and they didn't today. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I think we take the positives from yesterday, getting a late equaliser when things were so difficult for us with only a handful of fans in a stadium that was jumping, and we move on to the games that are coming up. We will have former Celtic great Jackie McNamara back on the channel tomorrow to chat about the matches and anything else that comes up between now and then. If you have any thoughts or questions you want us to put to Jackie, fire them in the comments below and I will do so. Very much looking forward to hearing from Jackie. Final kind of wee bit of housekeeping is that we're now 100 subscribers away from 34,000. So please, that's 9 pleases, one for every point. We're clear. Subscribe to the channel. Maybe you've just found out about us, told by a friend, found us organically. Maybe you've been there from the start and haven't subscribed yet. It really helps me. It means that big bad people don't come after me if we can get to 34,000. So I'm confident we can do it tonight or tomorrow if less than 100 of you just click that button. It's nice and easy to do. Do often get emails from people asking how to do it. very easy. I think you just hover next to the subscribe button, or click it if you're on your phone, touch it, whatever, and do it. Yeah. Just to finish today's video, Celtic lost another legend of the club over the new year. Frank McGarvey passed away at the age of 66 following a short battle with cancer. He joined his beloved club Celtic in 1980 for a fee of around £270,000, becoming the most expensive Scottish player at the time. He played 245 times for the club in total and scored 109 goals, so he's in the century club. Most famous for his diving header in the 1985 Scottish Cup final against Dundee United. Great goal, iconic Celtic goal. You've seen it so many times. In total for Celtic, he won 2 league titles, 2 Scottish Cups and a League Cup for Celtic. I actually met him once, I think, a couple of years ago when I played in a charity match. He actually happened to be my manager for that game. Pretty funny guy. Certainly had a few things to say to me, being a big 6'4", lanky guy. And the one thing I think that stood out for me anyway for that game, between Frank McGarvey and a number of the other former players, was the will that these guys still had to win that match. A charity game, not even a charity game, just a bit of fun basically in the park, and he still demanded that everyone won that game. So yeah, he's going to be a massive loss, really sadly missed, I think, by everyone of a Celtic persuasion and indeed a Scottish football persuasion. And yeah, we just wish all the best to his family and friends at this difficult time. Rest in peace, Frank McGarvey.